There is something mysterious about waiting. We do not like it. We resist it. We shake our fists at heaven, wondering if we have been forgotten. And yet, it is in the waiting that God is most at work. We pray for open doors, for healing, for breakthroughs, and when they do not come in our preferred time or way, we wonder if God is listening. But perhaps we have misunderstood the nature of divine preparation. What if the waiting is not a delay but a necessary shaping? What if the closed doors are not a rejection but a mercy? There is something profoundly unsettling about waiting. It stretches the soul, tests our patience, and often leaves us questioning whether God is even listening. We live in a world that measures success by speed, faster results, instant gratification, immediate rewards. Yet the ways of God are not the ways of men. His timing is not dictated by our clocks, and His process is not bound by our impatience. Waiting feels like inactivity, but in the hands of God, it is anything but. A seed that is planted does not spring forth into a mighty tree overnight. It is hidden beneath the soil, buried in darkness, pressed by the weight of the earth. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing is happening. But within, transformation is unfolding. Roots are pushing deep into the ground, establishing strength that will one day support branches stretching toward the sky. The waiting is not wasted. It is where the unseen work of growth happens. Perhaps you find yourself in such a season, praying for change, longing for a breakthrough, wondering why God seems silent. You may feel stuck, as if your prayers have gone unanswered, as if your dreams have been placed on hold indefinitely. But what if this waiting is not a punishment? What if it is a preparation? What if the very delay you despise is the hand of God, ensuring that when you step into your answered prayer, you will be able to carry the weight of the blessing? We often think we are ready simply because we desire something deeply. But God, in His wisdom, knows that readiness is not measured by longing alone. A child may reach for a sharp knife on the table, believing himself capable of handling it simply because he wants it. But a loving parent does not place such a tool in untrained hands, not because they wish to withhold something good, but because they know it could bring harm before it brings help. In the same way, God's delays are not His denials. They are His protection, His shaping, His refining. The world tells us to rush, to force doors open, to make things happen in our own strength. But what is gained too quickly is often lost just as fast. What is built without a foundation crumbles under pressure. God's timing is never off, even when it feels painfully slow. He sees the end from the beginning, and what He is doing in you during the waiting is just as important as what He will do for you when the waiting is over. There is something sacred about the slow, steady work of preparation. It is in the waiting that character is refined. It is in the waiting that faith is strengthened. It is in the waiting that we learn to trust God, not just for what He can give, but for who He is. When every door remains closed, when every attempt seems futile, when every prayer seems to echo back without an answer, it is then that faith is tested and proven. Do we trust Him only when the path is clear, or do we trust Him when the way is hidden? Think of the greatest stories ever told, the most inspiring lives ever lived. None of them was shaped in ease and comfort. Every hero, every champion of faith, every great leader endured seasons where they felt forgotten, where they wondered if their dreams had died. But in those very seasons, God was at work, shaping them into the people who could not just receive the blessing, but sustain it. Joseph dreamed of greatness, but was thrown into a pit and sold into slavery. David was anointed king, but spent years running from a mad ruler before he ever touched the throne. Even Jesus Himself waited until the appointed time before stepping into His ministry. If the greatest works of God require waiting, why would it be any different for us? It is easy to trust God when the path is clear, when the doors swing open, when every prayer is met with an immediate answer. But the real test of faith is in the waiting. It is in trusting that even when nothing seems to be happening, everything is happening. It is in believing that beneath the surface, beneath the frustration and the silence, God is moving, working, refining, and aligning things far beyond what we can see or comprehend. So, the waiting is not wasted. The waiting is the work. The waiting is the place where faith is stretched and patience is forged. It is where dependency on God is deepened and where trust is no longer a mere word, but a way of life. What you are praying for is not just about receiving, it is about becoming. And sometimes, before we step into what we have been asking for, we must first become the person who can handle the weight of the answer. Fire is a terrifying thing. It consumes, it destroys, it reduces even the strongest structures to ashes. We do not run toward fire, we run from it. And yet, in the hands of a master craftsman, fire does not just destroy, it refines, it purifies. It burns away what is weak and leaves behind what is strong. Gold in its rawest form is not the brilliant treasure we imagine. It is covered in impurities, mixed with lesser elements. Only when it is placed in the fire, when it is subjected to intense heat, do those impurities rise to the surface and separate. Only through the fire does gold become what it was meant to be. Perhaps you feel like you are walking through fire. The trials seem endless, the pain unbearable. You wonder if you will make it through, if you will ever see the other side of this suffering. It feels unfair, unnecessary even. But what if this fire is not meant to destroy you? What if it is meant to refine you? What if the very things you are praying to escape are the things God is using to shape you? No one prays for the fire. We pray for blessings, for ease, for open doors and clear skies. But the greatest strength is not forged in comfort. It is forged in the moments when everything is tested, our faith, our endurance, our very identity. It is in the fire that we discover what is real and what is merely illusion. It is easy to claim faith when nothing challenges it. It is easy to trust God when the path is smooth. But when the fire comes, when the trials press in from all sides, when life does not go according to plan, this is where faith is proven. We all carry things that cannot go with us into the next season of our calling. Fear, doubt, pride, self-reliance. These things cling to us like impurities in gold, and without fire they remain hidden. But when trials come, when we are placed in the heat of difficulty, these things rise to the surface. We are forced to confront them, to let go of what weakens us, so that only what is strong remains. The fire reveals what we could not see in times of ease. Some of the most powerful people, the most inspiring figures, the ones whose stories shake the world, none of them were shaked in comfort. They walked through fire. They faced rejection, loss, betrayal, hardship beyond what they thought they could bear. And yet, on the other side, they emerged not bitter, but better, not weaker, but stronger. The fire that was meant to destroy them only refined them. What was once fragile became unbreakable. It is tempting to pray for escape. It is natural to want the suffering to end as quickly as possible. But what if the fire is not finished yet? What if stepping out too soon means leaving before the refining work is complete? A blacksmith does not pull the metal from the forge before it is ready. The refining process takes time. The heat must do its full work. The metal must be shaped, strengthened, hammered into its final form. If removed too soon, it remains brittle, unfit for the purpose it was meant to fulfill. God is not punishing you. He is preparing you. He is not cruelly watching you suffer. He is standing with you in the fire, ensuring that what comes out is far greater than what went in. The fire may be hot, the refining painful, but you are not being destroyed. You are being made new. You are being shaped for something greater than you can see. The things that feel like breaking points are actually transformation points. What feels like the end is often the beginning of something stronger, purer, and more powerful than you ever imagined. When the fire comes, when the trials seem unrelenting, remember this: the strongest steel is forged in the hottest flames. The most brilliant gold is purified in the fiercest heat, and the greatest souls are refined through trials that seemed unbearable. The fire is not your enemy. The fire is making you into who you were always meant to be. There are few things more frustrating than a closed door. You stand before it, knocking, waiting, praying for it to open. You do everything right, take every step, believe with all your heart, and yet, nothing. The door remains shut, locked, unmoving, and in that silence, doubt begins to whisper. Did I miss something? Did I take the wrong path? Has God forgotten me? The pain of rejection, of delay, of dreams deferred can be crushing. But what if the closed door is not a rejection, but a redirection? What if the very thing you see as an obstacle is, in fact, God's protection? We are quick to see closed doors as failures, a lost opportunity, an unanswered prayer, a road that suddenly ends when we thought it would take us to our destination. But if we could see beyond the door, if we could see what God sees, we might realize that what we called failure was actually grace. We might realize that what felt like a setback was, in fact, a divine setup for something greater than we ever imagined. There is a reason why certain doors do not open, why some prayers seem to go unanswered, why the thing we wanted so desperately remains just out of reach. It is not because God is ignoring us. It is because He knows something we do not. We see only the present moment, but He sees the entire picture. He knows what waits on the other side of that door, and if it is not meant for us, if it would harm us, delay us, distract us, or lead us away from His purpose, He, in His mercy, will not allow it to open. Think of a traveler on a long journey. He sets out with a map, convinced he knows the way, only to find the road unexpectedly blocked. Frustration rises. He has to turn back, find another route, take a longer road. But what he does not see is the danger ahead, the bridge that has collapsed, the storm waiting just beyond the bend. What felt like an inconvenience was actually his salvation. The blocked path forced him onto the one that would lead him safely to his destination. So often, we are that traveler. We pray for open doors, and when they do not open, we assume we are lost. But God is not in the business of leading His people into destruction. If He allows a door to remain closed, it is because there is another way, a better way, a way that will bring not only the blessing we seek, but also the transformation we need. He does not just want us to arrive, He wants us to be ready when we get there. Some of the greatest disappointments in our lives, in hindsight, will prove to be the greatest blessings. The job that did not come through, the relationship that ended, the opportunity that passed us by. All these things, in the moment, felt like losses. But later, when we stand on the mountain looking back, we will see how every detour was leading us somewhere we never would have reached on our own. We will see that what looked like unanswered prayers were in fact answered in a way we could not have expected. It is a hard thing to trust when we do not understand. It is difficult to praise when doors are shutting, when plans are failing, when all we have is uncertainty. But faith is not built on what we see. It is built on the assurance that the one who holds our future knows what He is doing. The door that did not open was not the only door. The dream that did not come to pass was not the only dream. The opportunity that slipped through your fingers was not your only chance at success. God is not limited. His plans are not fragile. And what He has written for your life will not be undone simply because one door remains shut. There will come a day when you will be grateful for the doors that did not open. You will look back and see that every delay, every detour, every unexpected turn was not a mistake, but a divine rerouting to something far greater than you had planned. So do not despair over the doors that stay closed. Do not waste time pounding on them, demanding they open. Trust that, if it is meant for you, nothing will keep it shut. And if it is not, then whatever is beyond it was never meant to be part of your journey. Keep moving, keep trusting. The door that leads to your destiny is still ahead. Faith is a strange and powerful thing. It asks us to believe before we see, to trust before we understand, to step forward when there is no visible path ahead. It defies human reasoning, challenges logic, and demands that we place our confidence not in what is tangible, but in what is promised. Faith calls us into the unknown, into deep waters, into places where our only assurance is that God is who He says He is. And yet, this is how every great story begins. Not with certainty, but with trust. Not with fulfillment, but with faith. There is a temptation to wait until everything makes sense before believing. We want proof, signs, assurances that what we are hoping for will come to pass. We want to see the outcome before we take the first step. But that is not how faith works. Faith is stepping into the unseen, believing in the promise even when the evidence is lacking. It is building the ark before the flood, marching around the walls before they fall, stepping into the water before it parts. The fulfillment does not come first. The promise does not unfold before belief. It is faith that moves mountains, faith that opens doors, faith that calls the impossible into existence. Faith does not ask for easy circumstances. It does not require everything to be perfectly aligned before it takes action. In fact, faith often thrives in the face of opposition. It is when everything seems to be working against us, when the road is unclear, when the odds are stacked high, that faith has the greatest opportunity to reveal its strength. It does not shrink back in uncertainty. It presses forward, even when common sense says to turn around. This is the test of faith. To trust when there is no reason to trust. To believe when there is no visible sign that belief will be rewarded. It is easy to have faith when the answers come quickly, when doors swing open without resistance, when prayers are met with immediate response. But real faith is forged in the waiting, in the silence, in the moments when nothing seems to be happening. It is in those moments that faith is either strengthened or abandoned. So many dreams die, not because they were impossible, but because people gave up too soon. They stopped believing before the breakthrough, they turned back before they reached the promise. They allowed doubt to convince them that silence meant failure. But faith does not operate on human timelines. It does not bow to impatience. It keeps going when nothing makes sense, holding on to the truth that what God has spoken will come to pass in its appointed time. Faith does not eliminate fear, but it moves forward despite it. It does not ignore obstacles, but it refuses to be defined by them. It does not always see the whole picture, but it walks in confidence, knowing that God does. There will always be reasons to doubt, always circumstances that make faith seem foolish. But those who cling to faith will one day see that every step, every prayer, every moment of perseverance was leading them towards something greater than they could have imagined. Fulfillment comes, but it comes after faith. The harvest comes, but only after the seed has been planted and tended with patience. The promise is fulfilled, but only for those who do not abandon the journey midway. It is faith that goes ahead of fulfillment, preparing the way, making room, creating the foundation upon which blessings can stand. It is faith that keeps moving forward when sight alone would say to stop. There is no wasted faith. Every act of trust, every step of belief, every moment spent holding on to God's promises is building something unseen. The fulfillment will come, but it will come in the appointed time, not a moment too soon or too late. Until then, faith must go first. Faith must step out, speak life, believe when there is no evidence, persist when there is no encouragement. And in the end, faith will find what it has been seeking. Because faith, no matter how long the journey, always precedes fulfillment. There is something in us that longs for more. We pray for bigger opportunities, greater influence, deeper relationships, and abundant blessings. We stretch our hands toward the heavens, asking for increase, believing that we are ready for what we desire. But desire alone is not enough. Readiness is not determined by wanting, it is determined by preparation. A blessing given too soon is not a blessing at all. It is a weight we are not yet strong enough to carry. It is easy to focus on the blessing itself, to dream about what it will look like, how it will feel, how it will change our lives. But what we often fail to consider is what it requires. Every answered prayer carries responsibility. Every new level comes with new challenges. The things we ask for are not just gifts, they are assignments. And unless our hands have been prepared to hold them, the very thing we thought would bring joy could become a burden too heavy to bear. We see the moments of arrival, the seasons of overflow, the stories of success, and we long for our own. But behind every great blessing is a process of preparation. The farmer does not wake up one morning to a field full of harvest without first breaking the ground, planting the seeds, and tending to them with patience. The athlete does not stand on the podium without first enduring years of training. The leader does not carry great influence without first being tested in seasons of hiddenness. Before every blessing, there is a time of shaping. Before every great moment, there is a process that ensures we are ready when it comes. It is not that God is withholding good things from us. It is that He loves us too much to give us what we are not yet prepared to handle. A child may ask for the keys to the car, convinced that they are ready to drive, but a wise parent does not give them something that could destroy them before they have learned how to use it. In the same way, God is not just concerned with giving us what we ask for. He is concerned with shaping us into the kind of people who can steward what we receive. He is concerned with shaping us into the kind of people who can steward what we receive. He knows that blessings, when placed in unprepared hands, can become sources of stress instead of joy, distractions instead of opportunities, burdens instead of gifts. This is why waiting is necessary. This is why the process cannot be skipped. The waiting is not punishment, it is preparation. It is in the seasons of unseen work, of quiet faithfulness, of slow growth, that our hands are strengthened. It is in the stretching, the refining, the enduring, that we become capable of carrying what is coming. The process may be uncomfortable, even painful at times, but it is essential. If we rush ahead, if we demand the blessing before the preparation is complete, we may find ourselves overwhelmed by the very thing we prayed for. Some of the greatest losses come not from a lack of opportunity, but from a lack of preparation. People rise too quickly, receive too much too soon, and collapse under the weight of what they were not ready to hold. But those who allow themselves to be shaped, who embrace the process, who submit to the unseen work, when their moment comes, they do not just receive the blessing, they sustain it. They walk in it with wisdom. They use it for good. They carry it with strength, not with struggle. What we are waiting for is not just about what we will receive, it is about who we will become. Every moment of preparation is building something in us. Every test, every challenge, every lesson is shaping our character, strengthening our hands, and deepening our capacity. And when the time comes, when our hands have been prepared, what we receive will not be wasted. It will not slip through our fingers. It will not slip through our fingers. It will not slip through our fingers. It will not be more than we can handle. Instead, it will be exactly what it was meant to be: a blessing, carried well, used wisely, and multiplied for something far greater than we ever imagined.